But yeah, no, thank you for doing this again.
Of course.
It's been when was the last time? It was around April, wasn't it? Last year, April, May.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, with a hypnotist.
Yeah, during the first lockdown, and yeah, we talked over a few things in that, which was good.
Yeah.
Obviously, plans have changed slightly, but yeah, no. I mean, how's it been for you? What's it been like since that sort of time?
Well, it's been interesting, man. I mean, we were on the road when the first lockdown happened, and we cancelled all the shows, rescheduled all the shows. And yeah, we kind of thought, well, you know, we'll just keep our head down for 6 months and this thing will be over. But as it panned out, it was something that rolled on and rolled on. Mm-hmm. And it was the same with a lot of artists. I think it's just the way things go.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, okay, you had Hypnotist out around that point, and you had South before that as well.
Yeah,
both cracking singles.
Thanks, man.
And this new one you've got, House of Mirrors. Is I love it. It's been basically on rotation. I've got a new playlist thing that I've been running for a little while, but I've only just sort of unleashed it on the public, and you guys have been in it for the past couple of weeks. So
thank you so much. That's so cool.
No, it's really, I mean, thank you for giving me a sneak peek at it as well, which was really cool. And the video, which it's bizarre. We'll go into that. But
it's got that kind of Tool vibe to it, you know. That was the sort of thought that, you know, yeah,
that's exactly it. And yeah, no, I was just sort of like, when I heard the track first, I was sort of just listening to the music, not really paying a whole lot of attention to the video, because I just sort of like, I in the back of my head, I thought it was just like a lyric video or something initially. I just like to listen to the music, but when I looked up, I realized it's actually a music video. So a second time. But yeah, no, it's the single itself is great. It's got a real kind of like grimy vibe to it. I mean, kind of, you hinted on that sort of sound in those first two singles, but this one really kind of takes it down to a deeper level, I feel.
Yeah. Well, we recorded it all in lockdown. So, you know, we were doing it all over Zoom, and I was recording the vocals on my own. I set up a vocal booth in my bedroom, which was a weird scenario. You know, I was like, I was trying to record in between my neighbors doing construction work upstairs.
Oh, brilliant!
So I was kind of waiting for the saws to stop, and then I'm like, right, let's sing some lyrics. So it's weird doing it in that environment, but I think it came out really raw because of that.
Yeah.
You know, and the lyrics for House of Mirrors I'd actually written. The song is about isolation and being, you know, bad coping mechanisms, and, you know, being surrounded by technology, and your mind seems like the enemy, you know. Yeah. So I'd written that a while back, and then lockdown happened, and I was like, the lyrics took on a whole new meaning. You know, there was a different angle to it. So I thought it was a good one to record actually in lockdown as a band, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was going to say the lyrical content, it really does resonate. I mean, I've heard a lot of lockdown theme songs. Some not so good, but it kind of it's that person's message at the time, but it's very kind of like, it feels very kind of, I don't know, forced, if that makes, I don't know if that makes sense, but your track, it resonated a lot more with me, because it's like, you know, it goes on about obviously isolation, you know, are you sure you're real, you know, are you sure you're not a ghost, the lyric and everything.
Yeah, that's right.
And it really does. I mean, even though I'm in a house with my family, sometimes you do feel that kind of like, is this real? Is this something that it put it in a, like, it's like, about, if I was to sort of sum up a lockdown situation, or the way my head feels in some cases during this time, this single, these words that you've created have really like resonated on that fact.
Yeah. Well, it's very much so that self-critical thing, you know. So like you look at yourself in the mirror, or you look at yourself like you see yourself back on a Zoom or whatever, and you're really hypercritical of yourself, and you're always thinking about that. And that's the sort of premise of being your own worst enemy. You know, you're in that constantly in a house of mirrors, and you're reviewing yourself and looking at yourself, and you don't always think the best things about yourself. You're your own harshest critic, well, at least I am. I know a lot of people are as well. So it's that's where that that place, that's where the song comes from, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's why it hit me so much, because like I spend every day on WebEx or Zoom or whatever with my work colleagues, and like I've noticed like half this time, like they kind of encourage you to have the camera on, so they can see you're okay, for one, and that you feel a bit more as part of a team, which I do already. I've been with these guys for ages, so nice. But I've found myself turning off the camera all the time, and like doing things like this where I've kind of adapted to camera, whereas before we did this, I mean, we had the cameras on last time, I believe, but we didn't record it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah.
So it was just the audio, so I can kind of like, you know, get that. But with this, I find this a lot different. So with the podcast, I'm chatting to people like yourself, and it's a totally different conversation to what I'm having at work.
Right.
There's no sort of like training. There's no like sort of aligning your hobbies with whatever you do at work or whatever, anything like that. With this, it's purely like music, sort of human, totally different people. We don't know each other from anything as such, apart from your music. But it's this is sort of like I've become more comfortable doing this in front of the camera because I can see myself right now. I don't like I've never liked looking at myself, but I've spent
a lot of time. Beard, man, I like your beard right now. It's looking very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I grew a lockdown beard. It was a bit of a Tom Hanks moment. I looked in the mirror and I was like, what the hell, man? Like, when did this happen? Yeah. But it was a bit crazy.
I got rid of the side bits recently, just purely because I am going back into work. I'm allowed to have this and the piercings and everything, so it's all right.
It looks like Hetfield in like 2007. Remember? That's what I tell you. It's a cool look, man. I like it.
Thank you. Making me feel better about myself. But yeah, no, just adapting to this sort of lifestyle and like adapting to having this. I mean, I would like to do this, like this sort of thing in person, which I did before lockdown. I went to gigs and I'd interview bands before they play and all that kind of stuff. And a few of them were caught on camera, some of them weren't. But like adapting to this and making the differentiation between work and everything has been quite nice, because like the past few sort of like work meetings, I've had the camera off. I'll talk, that's fine, but I've just had the camera off because I'm just sick of seeing yourself looking at me, because I had that in my head of like, what's wrong with my nose?
So paranoid about it. Yeah.
Everyone else they've got makeup and, you know, like and that. But it's just that and I've sort of started doing virtual nightclubs performance stuff. So like whereas before I was kind of live streaming music, like DJing, but now there's the one club down this way had been sort of doing it since the first lockdown, where they've had this like kind of virtual nightclub going on. So basically it's basically Zoom set up, but the video transmits to Twitch, and there's like multiple, there's like 20 people like in different rooms, and people are dancing, people are actually dressing up
amazing.
And it's been a great like community thing, because I've been like when I first started doing live streaming, it was really weird because I'm not playing to an audience.
Yes.
Much like if you do a gig live stream, you're playing to an audience, but you're not getting the buzz, the reaction, the energy of the room.
Well, at the start of lockdown, I did a show for King Tut's in Glasgow and the King Tut's thing. And it was weird. We did quite a few. But it was weird to do that because I'd never done it before. You know, I had my piano set up and I'm in my living room. You know, I got my Robert Burns poster behind me and I'm just like, you know, playing this song. It's a strange feeling. There's very little reaction, because usually when you play live, you get a reaction and you can have some banter and have some fun, and there's that real sense of community. But without that, there isn't. So that's one of the things I'm looking forward to when gigs come back, is going to feel in that community again and making new friends at gigs. You know, it's missing it.
I mean, that's something that obviously with the announcements we've had in the past week, there seems to be a light. Whether or not it's the right light, I don't know. Whether it's actually realistic, I don't know, because I've been, it's like being like, it's kind of having that kind of weirdly like abusive relationship. It's really weird, but it's like, it's okay, baby. Yeah, we'll do this. And then it doesn't happen. And it's all your fault. And it's that's how I feel about it at the moment, because everyone's getting really excited, and I want to get excited. I want to get back into the nightclubs. So like I was like, fuck, June, awesome. Get back into nightclubs, hopefully get back into some kind of, normality of some kind. And it's the same with, obviously, with you, with like playing gigs and stuff. You're looking at that, you think, awesome, we could book some shows. We could, grab some support slots or something, something like that. And
Totally.
I just can't get excited.
Yeah, that's right. You need a date. You need something to be like, all right, this is when it's going to kick off, or a festival to look forward to. It's like, oh, we know this festival's coming up or whatever. It's like, it's such an encouraging thing, encouraging feeling, but it shouldn't be too long. I don't think. I think it's going to come around sooner than we think.
Yeah, I think so. I think with hopefully vaccines and stuff rolling out quicker and more uptake on that, I think that's just going to be. It's down to the public. So I don't like the general public, but that's just me. But it's just sort of, yeah. No, I mean there is a lot of it. I mean I've got tickets that have been held for the past like year and a half. For shows that I've got that I was going to go to. So they're looking like they've rebooked dates and everything now. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Looking forward to seeing, I think, like Skunk and Antsy are playing one of them. And I can't remember what the other ones are. Yeah, I can't remember what the other ones are. There's a few. I've got tickets, and hopefully they're not going to book them all like so close to each other, because that's going to sort of build up of gigs and stuff.
Yeah, there's only so much a man can drink in a week.
Well, there's that. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see on that. I'm trying to be positive about it. It's very difficult at the moment. But once I see some kind of improvement on stuff, I think it's gonna sit a bit better with me on that front. But what are your guys' plans now? I mean, obviously, saying that with the announcement that we've just had, I mean, I know a lot of people. I don't say bands strictly, but I know a lot of people who deal like tour companies and stuff.
Yeah,
suddenly getting bookings. Their traders pick back up again, just saying like as of like June, July, their vans are being booked. Their tour managers are being booked out and stuff. What about you guys? What have you got?
Well, we're releasing a bunch of songs this year. So we're gonna do a whole bunch of songs, and then we're gonna have an EP. Which is super exciting, So right now we're taking this time to focus on the songs and write what we want to say and bring some of that raw energy out that's come from the frustration of lockdown. Maybe that's a positive that can come from it. But as far as the live stuff is concerned, as soon as we're able to do it, we're gonna get back out on the road, man, and maybe go out with a few other bands and. Yeah, basically as soon as we can. I mean, probably festivals might be next year.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of them are off. But it's it's been mostly writing, man, and putting together some songs. We've got a clutch of songs that we're very happy with, and we're really excited to let people hear them, man. We're actually feeling really fired up. A lot of bands, which is tragic. A lot of them will have split up, and a lot of them have maybe released an album right before lockdown hit, but we're actually feeling really positive. We're feeling really stoked, and I think that the music I'm feeling really deeply at the moment, which is good, because the rest of it sucks. It sucks being in lockdown, not being able to see your family, not being able to go out and just hang out and drink. But yeah, I would say I'm feeling optimistic today. Good. So yeah, it's good.
Excellent. I mean, we sort of discussed over the email, but you've been in the studio past few days. What can we kind of expect when it comes to the releases, and what kind of like, I mean, did you finish any songs in that studio time, or is it just sort of like laying out the big ideas?
Well, I had written most of the lyrics and a lot of what Cam had done on the production, Cam the drummer, and Rusty with the bass. It's like we had a lot of songs formed, so we were kind of just tracking things in as high quality as possible. We'll probably have to do an awful lot of it in various studios at different times, given the COVID restrictions, which is totally cool, because you got to do that. You can't be irresponsible. So they're coming together, but the core songs are there, and you know what it's like being in a band when the core songs are there, and you're like, oh man, like that is an exciting point to be at. Yeah. Really stoked to get them out. So they'll be mixed and put together probably in the next couple of months. Hopefully, we're going to stick one out real soon after House of Mirrors. Yeah, there'll be the next one, and we're not going to slow down this year. It's all go.
That's awesome. I look forward to hearing those tracks, because like I said, I've enjoyed your previous releases, and this one in particular, the House of Mirrors. I mean, if we take it back because we didn't discuss the video as such.
Oh, of course, yeah, right. Well,
I mean, I don't mind jumping backwards and forwards; it's always good. But
no,
yeah,
totally,
that video, it was it's really freaky. Like you say, it's got that Tool-esque vibe to it.
yeah.
But what was the sort of? I know you've done like a web kind of like sort of behind the scenes, if you will. On that. But yeah, tell us a little bit about it. Just give people the
well idea. The video is inspired. I really like silent movies, the 20s era silent movies like Nosferatu, that sort of like dark kind of, where it's like the music plays into your emotion, and you're really focusing on the visuals. So the dark character in the video, it's sort of representation. It's a representation of all your kind of negative thoughts, the negative side of you. It's like that's that kind of horrible demon that's inside you. Trying to understand itself, trying to come to terms with your pain that you're in isolation or any other time. So it's got that kind of horror movie vibe, and Tool was a big influence on this as well. I love the Tool videos, with all of the kind of the crazy characters. It really brings you into the song.
Yeah. I mean, and you shot that. I'm assuming sort of during a lockdown.
Well, we were really careful to socially distance.
Yeah,
it was actually a point where we were allowed to do those things. We didn't do anything illegal, so we were really careful, and we followed the rules to the note. But we filmed it in a place near where we grew up. Do you know the film The Wicker Man, the 1973 film The Wicker Man?
Yes.
Well, there's a scene in that where Christopher Lee's character is doing all the sacrifices, and it's a cave near where we grew up. It's down on a beach, so it's an isolated location, and I love that film. It's incredible. So growing up in Scotland in Dumfries and Galloway, it's part of our kind of heritage. So we're really pleased to be able to go down and do that at that place. It was quite an experience, man.
Nice. I was going to ask where that was from because it's quite
yeah.
No, that makes sense. That film as well.
Like pagan vibes, man. I love it.
No, totally. And it's sort of like with the going back to the silent movie side of things. I mean, I love that sort of side of thing as well, especially the horror ones because they're so sinister. When I do my live streams, I have a projector that projects black and white horror movies onto my wall behind me. So
amazing.
So it's basically a silent movie, but to the metal soundtrack that I'm playing.
How good is that, though? Right, silent movies could totally be like there could be metal soundtracks for it. I wish people would redo that, like redo the silent movies with like heavy metal tunes. That'd be cool. Yeah,
that would be good. That's a good idea.
I
think between that and weird sort of black and white cartoons.
Yes,
so freaky ones where you got these like weird dancing skeletons and all this kind of stuff going on. And I love that kind of like that horror. That era of horror is great. I love that that side of things, especially because it is a silent movie. And if you ever watch them without the music and just the dark, it's just I've done that, and that's just freaky because you've only got the sound of like nothing around you, which is even more freaky.
Crazy, man, so crazy. Not necessarily a thing to watch when you're on your own in lockdown at 4 a.m, but we do our coping mechanisms, don't we?
No, this is pre-lockdown. I was doing this, but yeah, no, it's that's what I like. I really like that video you've done, and that having those sort of like influences and vibes to it was really cool. It was a real proper that is the kind of like inner demon that messes with you, but
it's within us all. Yeah, that's it, and it comes out sometimes, man, when you look in the mirror.
Yeah, who was the person playing the main like?
The guy. It was a fellow called Jack. He's a dancer from Glasgow. Really talented guy, really talented dancer. He's actually really, really nice. He's such a nice, mild-mannered guy, and he gets into the costume and he just owned it. Like you just saw him just sink into the character straight away, and it was like, whoa, that's really quite freaky,
Yeah, I was gonna say he's incredibly flexible. And some of
he's dancers, so he knows. Same with Hypnotist, we had a guy, Aaron Shepherd, who was Karnunos, the character in Hypnotist, who's a dancer. So we've got lots of friends who are dancers. So I guess it felt like a very appropriate thing to have, and the kind of strange contortions. It's it's almost not like a real person. Your demon can move in all sorts of strange ways you can't, which is sort of the point.
That was what was like mesmerizing about it. Obviously, you know, knowing that that person is a dancer is that makes total sense.
Yeah. Oh, so
like, the way, like, just like the way, like you say, the way the contorting and the bending and I was like, how can any, you know?
It's a real skill. Like, I'm super unflexible. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah.
You see like bands like Don Broco, they do like the high kicks side as like the whole thing with the like the high kicks when he's playing the guitar, and I'm like, dude, I can't do it. I would just destroy myself. I love it, but
no, I tried a few things when I was younger, and I hurt myself more than often. So
right. Right there with you, man.
Definitely can't do it now. Definitely can't. My body is but yeah, no, it's no, I mean, it's a great single. Like I said, I'm giving it some play on the radio and whatnot, and gonna play it on my live streams and stuff as well, because it fits really well with a few other tracks that I do play on a regular basis as well, which is really cool. It's kind of got that real kind of like industrial griminess to it, which is, whether that was deliberate or not, it's kind of it's
big Nine Inch Nails fan, especially Cam, the drummer. He's very much into that sort of vibe. So I guess taking that in was cool. I'll tell you, have you heard Gary Newman's new stuff?
Yes.
How good is that, man? My Name Is Ruin. That's amazing. Guys go check that out.
I saw him live, Reading Festival around, I want to say 2000-ish.
Right.
Around about my sort of like 20s and stuff, and totally blew me away. I only knew him for obviously Cars, Our Friends Electric, things like that. So I was like, oh, cool, 80s, synth pop. Comes on stage and totally has like just black suit on, or black like leather jacket, and just white light. And it was just full on dark industrial like pop. And it was fucking awesome. And since then, I've been like, I was a fan before just purely for the sort of like cheesy pop side of things. Like back in the 80s, there's a lot of things there. I became a massive fan just like hearing that, and then got his the singles RIP and all that kind of stuff, going through those sort of like more sort of like dark pop synth industrial albums where it kind of think Nine Inch Nails,
Totally, man. I mean, Nine Inch Nails will be a massive influence on us for sure.
Yeah.
You can hear it in the Newman stuff, the new stuff. It's like, it's really good. And I think it's really cool when you mix rock and electronica in a dark way like that. There's some that just really excites me about it. I don't know. But yes, it is deliberate, I guess. So we have a lot of electronica in our music.
That fits totally well into my radio show. I don't know if I've mentioned it last time, but the show that I play you out on. Because obviously I've got this is just solely a podcast now, but the radio show that I have is a mix show. So it basically, I mix rock and metal with dance, electronica, stuff like that. And like when bands do have that crossover sound, that's when I'm like, yes.
Like Code Orange are kicking ass as well, man. They're great new band.
You got the heavier, like you say, the Code Orange, your PR mates, I guess, Icons for Hire, on the same PR as you. But there's bands like Seething Akira from down this way as well. They're a bit more sort of like big room electronics to it, so they've kind of got like more of a punky Prodigy vibe to them. But yeah, they have like the sort of drum and bass dubstep influence on their music as well. And I've always loved that crossover sound ever since I heard Censor back in the day. They were a big sort of like guide for me, and they guided me towards things like the Prodigy and things like that. Back early, very very early teens. But no, the show that I have, it's called the Dirtchamber, and it basically mixes electronica with rock, and it's basically a club mix, like an hour-long club mix basically. So having your like music in that as well, like it's a solid BPM. Not that but with the electronica side, there's that certain accuracy that you need, like especially when it just makes your life a little bit easier. Because I can listen to sort of like naturally recorded things, like early albums by bands, and the BPM is relatively solid, but it's not like syncopate exactly in point. But when people put electronics on it, they generally have to be in sync. So
and it can be a challenge playing it live, but I like that challenge. I like that idea of bringing in different instruments, bringing in different synth samples, all of that sort of stuff. I think there's a bit of a revolution in heavy music right now. There seems to be that, a lot of rock bands are trying to bring in electronica, and it excites me to no end to hear bands that do that. Never Not Nothing are kicking ass like that. They've got an album out, and it's got that like Prodigy vibes. They've got some sort of Prodigy vibes to it, but it's a rock band. It really rocks. So it's like I'm so into that vibe right now, man.
Yeah, they work with the Prodigy, in fact.
Right.
I've known those guys since they were Subsource, which
right, okay.
They're from around here, so
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
And just watch them go through. Then they were Black Futures, and then they changed the name to Never Not Nothing. And yeah, they've kind of got that kind of like that rocky electronica vibe to them. But over the years, they started more electronic, like very much like that was their base of sound. But they've kind of grown and become a lot more organic, I suppose, but with that having a good weave of electronica in them. But yeah, they work with the Prodigy on the last album, I believe. They did some co-producing, I think.
Nice. Yeah, I think I heard that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that album. That album that they did, the last one they did, it's really strong, man.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, so there's a lot of bands out there doing it. Like Bring Me the Horizon have started like introducing, if you want to go sort of a bit more sort of on the mainstream side of things, they had Mick Gordon on their last EP, which is the guy that did the Doom soundtrack,
right,
which is proper heavy sort of electronica rock metal type thing. But
yeah, for sure.
Bands like, I mean, there's Cell Dweller, it's one from the States.
Right.
Blue Starly's another one. Those are sort of like more longer sort of like term electronic rock people. And yeah, there's a whole sort of vibe coming out now, which is awesome. I'm like, this is great because this is so much music I can play. Because I was getting to a point where I was like really skimming for like dodgy remixes off SoundCloud.
Oh no, you can't. No, I hear you, man. I hear you. But no, it's good because it keeps alternative music fresh, man. It keeps it really. I tell you where you were mentioning bands that you had tickets for that you can't go see because of COVID. I was going to see Ghostman. Ghostman.
Yeah.
I was going to see that, and that's like kind of gothic rap metal sort of vibe, and I'm like, that's really interesting. I just wanted to see what that would be like live.
Yeah.
I bet that'd be pretty interesting. But I like where alternative music's at. I like the fact that bands are trying new things and we're pushing the genre forward because if it doesn't go forward, it gets stale, man.
And I think that's one of the things that come out of lockdown, because a lot of bands like yourself have been self-producing.
Right.
Like you've been sat there with your laptop. You can't like go to a studio. You can't go to, you have to record stuff yourself or create beats. And then you start learning, you start watching those videos, those YouTube tutorials, and learning how these things work. So how to make those drums sound real, how to make them sound big, how to make, how to produce. And a lot of bands have kind of like, especially like, because we can't meet up during this time, bands have evolved to using that, and it's becoming a bit more like the releases from that are coming out now, and those influences now. And I feel there's going to be a wave of this
really experimental stuff, because you're not constricted by outside influences.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, back when I was sort of traveling in circles of musicians and whatnot and being in a band, I was the turntablist in a band. So
yeah.
I was part of that movement where we were sort of like bringing that sort of like hip hop tool, if you will, into metal. So it was that new metal type thing. And, just going from there and sort of being part of that and knowing that there are a lot of people out there that don't like it.
Yeah, well, there's always going to be some people that don't like it. I think if there's not a good amount of people that don't like it, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You need a reaction of some kind.
You're right. Yeah.
No reaction is the worst thing.
Totally. Yeah. You got to have some people hate it.
And normally, the negative people always shout the loudest. So it's
you always remember the negative people more. People can say nice things to you all day, but you remember that one person go, yeah, fine.
But yeah, no, with now, I mean, I see some of like, the true metalists sort of like really kind of like, oh no, is another thing coming into our sound.
Mm.
I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, we've kind of had hints of it in the past, like say Nine Inch Nails, bands from like UK like Pitch Shifter, Censor, The Prodigy have all kind of like had that kind of like rock vibe into their music, and yeah, now it's coming back, and it's coming back like really well produced, which
Yes,
because there has been in the past where that mix of electronica and organic instrument don't often mix very well.
yes, that is true. It's difficult to make that happen. You know, you find yourself making, you know, full electronic sections and full rock sections and kind of mixing them together, which is kind of weird. I think Bring Me the Horizon are a good example of that, working really well. You know, they've got the different kind of sections, but it's cool, man, because you know, as a rock fan, you can enjoy the heavier side, and as an electronic fan, you can appreciate what, you know, like Jordan Fish has put vision. He's a bloody visionary. You know, he's put that stuff into the Bring Me stuff, and you can hear his influence, and I think that's a wonderful thing, because a band needs to have more than one influence, you know, and it needs to keep evolving, which is great, bringing in different genres like that. Yeah, it helps. Yeah,
totally. Well, I've got one more question for you, man, if that's all right. I've already asked you my main enders on the last time, so I'm not going to repeat those, like, you know, the 3 albums and whatnot. But what I've got here is like, what are your guilty pleasures when it comes to music? So
I don't really feel guilty about listening to anything. It's just, that's the thing, is I think because you can listen to it all in secret, right? You just put it on your Spotify and nobody can tell.
That's true.
But I do like Billie Eilish. I listen to Billie Eilish a lot. I think she's got a great voice, cool vibe. Post Malone. I love Post Malone. But I'm not guilty about it, man. I'm happy to say I love him, man. I think he's great. I don't know, as far as guilty players are concerned. I guess the stuff, which could be a bit nerdy. You know, like I'll sit and listen to, you know, the full soundtrack for Blade Runner, you know, like Benjamin Goldfish, Hans Zimmer and all that stuff, which I guess some people might think is a bit wanky.
No, that's not a bad thing. That's not. Yeah. I've done that. I do that.
Well, that's good. I don't feel so weird about it, so nerdy about it now. Yeah.
Is there anything that would surprise anyone? Like, you think, like if people that know you, if there was any like particular music or anything else other than music that you would see as they would see as a guilty pleasure, or, you know, that kind of.
I quite like Chinese Democracy.
Okay.
I quite like Chinese Democracy. I think I mean, like, there's a lot in there. Axl just kind of, he said everything, but there's a lot of merit in it. I think there's a lot of interesting things. Like we were talking about, man, he was trying to bring in that Nine Inch Nails influence, you could tell, with a lot of the tracks. You know, there's some cool riffs in there. But, you know, yeah, I thought that album was pretty cool, man. And whenever I say that, people go, oh, what the hell? That's you know, no, I quite liked it. So there's a guilty pleasure there. Yeah,
that album, I'm gonna say right now, I enjoyed that album as well. Like you said, there was that kind of like element of that industrial side of it that was he tried to bring in. I know he had didn't he have one of the ex Nine Inch Nails guitarists with him on that production?
That's right.
Was it Robert Flink? I can't remember. Is it Frink?
Robert Fink? Is it Fink? Robert Fink? Is it? Or is that the guy from The Simpsons? I don't know.
Professor, it's Professor Frink. I'm gonna have to look it up. But no, I enjoyed that. I mean, there was somehow like it was a lot of like kind of like, yeah, like you say, it was just kind of like that whole the whole time from when they released the last album to that album, all the genres at that point were kind of included in there. But there were some absolute belters on that album that I know they play live with the portion of the original lineup that they have now. So there are some tracks on there that kind of like have stood up very well. There's a song
called Better, and it's got a really cool riff. Like it's got this just like dank kind of like, and he does this like really high screaming vocal over it. I just think that's pretty cool. Never seen Guns N' Roses live. Cam has, but it's one to see.
Yeah, I'm sure. Hopefully they will tour, but it's just the ticket prices for those things now are just so much.
Too much.
But no, Better was one of the tracks on there, and there was I mean the title track as well, Chinese Democracy. And then there was that track that they did. It didn't go onto the album, but they did it for the End of Days soundtrack. Did you ever hear that one?
That's right. Yes.
Oh,
that's right. What was that tune called?
Oh My God, I think it was. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah. Can you remember in Use Your Illusions, the last track in Use Your Illusions 2, My World?
Yes.
It had a heavy, like, industrial vibe.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it kind of felt like maybe he continued on that vibe, you know, to the next record. You know, that's maybe where they were trying to go with the electronic sound. You know, maybe it was the sound of the late 90s or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because that one was, it was just on that movie, which was an all right movie. It was an Arnie movie. But yeah, it's called Oh My God. But yeah, that was like a heavily. I'm just looking up now. There we go. Make sure it was. But that was heavily like industrial, because that was like that really kind of teased me to like it. It was a long while before Chinese Democracy came out, but I was like, if he's gone that way, I'm gonna like this.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
I'm a massive Guns N' Roses fan. Like back when I was a kid, that was like the band.
Man, so into it.
Yeah, and it's just sort of like I'm hoping. I mean, there's rumors that they've recorded something or they're recording something. So, you know, we'll see how that goes.
The original lineup again, that would be quite cool. You get Slash doing some solos and Duff McKagan. That would be sick, man. That'd be well into that.
That will be nice. I know Slash has got a new album due out, so I don't know if it's going to be this sort of like cycle, if you will. But and he did the whole thing with AC/DC as well. With Axl.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so he did. That was kind of cool. It's a bit of a rock and roll moment, that, isn't it? Axl Rose with a broken leg singing with AC/DC.
Yeah, I really wish.
Couldn't predict it.
Yeah, I really wish they recorded something for the new AC/DC album with Axl, because that would have been absolutely like just him and Johnson would have been absolutely great on there.
It made sense.
That would have kicked ass, but it didn't happen. Maybe one day. We never know.
Maybe one day. Stranger things have happened.
Exactly. Like they got back together.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Leon, thank you, mate. I really appreciate your time.
Great to talk to you, man. Great to see you.
And yeah, good luck with everything. Obviously, I'll be keeping an eye out and keep playing your music on TotalRock and whatnot. So I hope you get some airplay on there and you get some airplay on some other places as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I love it's great to have the support of you guys and everyone who's listening. It means so much in lockdown. It means, you know, you're not feeling as disconnected as you maybe would otherwise. You know, so much appreciated, dude.
Oh, absolutely my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure.
All right.